Taylor? I don't see me yet. Hi, good afternoon. Are we beginning? All right, thank you. Good afternoon. This is the Transportation Benefit District meeting of April 18, 2017. I'm calling the meeting to order. And let me see. Okay. Opportunity to address the public. Is there anybody that would like to address the public?
We gotta do the agenda first.
Well, it's way down here, though.
Oh.
All right. I'd like to approve the agenda. Like to take a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for today. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from March 21, 2017?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from March 21.
Yeah, second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from March 21, 2017. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Now there's an opportunity for the public to address the Transportation Benefit District. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? There's nobody here. All right, we're moving on. Department items, number 3, Public Works. And before I move much further, I'm going to do introductions. To my far left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my immediate left is Commissioner Bud Blake. And we have Marcy Taylor here, the Executive Assistant, right?
Clerk of the board.
Clerk of the Board. And to her right is County Manager Ramiro Chavez. And to his right is Interim Public Works Director Scott Lindblom. And to his right is Scott Davis. What is your title?
Interim County Engineer.
Interim County Engineer. Thank you, Scott. All right, and no one can see you in the audience. All right, so with that, we have a presentation from Public Works on the for Transportation Benefit District. Go ahead. Who's got this? Which Scott?
I'll start out this afternoon, and thank you for your time this afternoon. Before we get started on the presentation, I'd like to do just a brief follow-up on a comment received to your office from a resident on March 21st. The resident made the comment and was concerned that the TBD should be dissolving, and he referenced RCW 3673-170. And an excerpt from that RCW reads as follows. Within 30 days of the completion of the construction of the transportation improvement or series of improvements authorized by a district, the district shall terminate day-to-day operations and exist solely as a limited entity that oversees the collection of revenue and the payment of debt service or financing still in effect. Just a brief follow-up to that. At this point, there has been no funding or projects approved by the TBD, and there are no funding or, excuse me, there's no projects currently being worked on. I did review that RCW, and I did check with legal counsel, and the RCW 3673-170 does not apply in this case, as I mentioned, there have been no projects or funding approved by the TBD. So any
No.
questions on that?
Any questions?
No?
Very good.
Okay,
Great,
but
then
we are going to have further discussions on the TBD later in the year.
Yes,
On the existence?
Yep.
Pardon?
On the continuation of?
Yes, on the continuation of the TBD, yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So next up is the presentation from the Public Works Department. And certainly what this Public Works presentation is going to highlight are some potential projects that the TBD board could choose to fund if they so choose to do so. And they are examples of projects. Should the TBD board choose to pursue projects, any specific projects would need to be approved by the TBD board prior to actually any initiation of these projects. So what you're going to see here today are examples of the types of projects that could be funded, and hopefully show some of the conditions of our roads and some of the value that the TBD could bring. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Davis as well.
Okay, so when the TPD was formed a few years ago now, it was broken up into programs, not projects. And so the programs were intended to I guess, hit on some kind of core areas of our transportation system, including preserving the system, safety, as well as the technology. Even though we don't think that the technology is much in our roadway system, there's a lot of it out there operating our traffic signals, school beacons, and a lot of other things out there as well. And there's also opportunities to improve our roadway system through technology as things change in time. So what we're going to do is just kind of highlight those different programs and some possible opportunities or things that the TPD could fund if it's continued. So we're going to start with pavement preservation. And so pavement preservation, we have over 1,000 centerline miles of roadway that the county is responsible for. We invest a little over $2 million annually in resurfacing work. That's mostly chip seal work, not asphalt overlays, although we do those as well. One of the challenges with the preservation program is essentially more traffic over time, inflation, just like if you're going to the grocery store, you see costs increase over the years. The same thing happens with construction work. And just an example of that in 2000, let's see, let me look at my note here. In 2000, for $1 million, we could chip seal about 65 miles of roadway. You know, fast forward to a few years ago, 2014, that same $1 million can chip seal about 26 miles. And so those are some of the challenges. Now that's shared by everyone. It's not just Public Works or anything like that. So, but it's just an example how inflation has impacted our ability to preserve the pavement structure. And so here's a chart, and hopefully it works okay for readability. But the green area is what we consider good pavement condition. I'm going to show you that in a minute here. And then blue is fair condition, and the gray is poor. And clearly, we'd like to have everything in the fair, good condition area. And then I'll talk a little bit about what the TPD is going to or could focus on. So, do I need a microphone out here, or can I just probably?
Yeah, sure.
Probably.
Does this work? Yep. All right. So on the pavement conditions, we brought a few examples with us here, and so this is just this one right here is HMA or hot mix asphalt. So this is standard pavement structure you see on a lot of our primary roadway systems. And so I could hand it out to you, but this is what we'd call a pavement in good condition. So you might see there's a little gap right in here where there's a separate layer. Layering in there. So this is one lift of asphalt, and then everything else was a separate one. So at some point in time, we came in and put an extra lift on there. So there's the little kind of seam, I guess. So, and that's usually put asphalt down 2 to 3 inches and lifts, and go from there. And usually they're built upon, not always. Sometimes they take out the older material. I won't bring up all these to you, but here's well, it looks like it has a bird dropping on here, but it's actually paint. Actually, maybe, Scott, maybe you could help me. Yeah. Maybe. It might be easier to do show and tell that way.
So the first one was excellent.
Yeah, first one's, this is excellent condition. And then Scott's going to show you one that's maybe more fair. Still good pavement structure, but you'll notice there's some cracking on the top of it, a little bit of cracking on the top. And so that's where we want to start taking a look at the pavements. And kind of like your house like I had mine painted a few years ago. You want to paint your house every now and again to keep the water and the elements out. And it's very similar to a roadway. When you start seeing cracking, generally that's when we start looking at doing some roadway sealing. Now this next one is what we call a fair condition roadway, where the cracks get a little bit deeper in the roadway pavement. And although you can paint those, which we call chip seal, those are where we usually are looking at for a little bit more robust type of treatment, where we want to maybe grind out the top layer of asphalt where that crack goes down to, and actually put new asphalt in.
So all these examples are all laid the same. This is just different stages of age.
Yep, different stages of age.
And traffic
age
weight?
and traffic. Yeah, because you could have a younger road, but if it's on a very high volume roadway, it's probably going to wear faster. Or if you have more truck traffic on some roads, they're going to wear faster as well. So some of our roadways, like 99 in Grand Mound, Old Pacific Highway, Martin Way, portions of Yum Highway have they're called T2 routes in a truck classification, but that's about up to 4 million tons of freight a year. Goes across some of our roadways anyway, not all of them. So this one is what we call a poor road, where it's just breaking apart. That's not a good condition. And usually what happens with those kinds of roads is you're getting into a lot bigger road reconstruction project. You're not just taking off a few layers of asphalt and putting new mix on. You're usually doing a lot more. And the last one is multiple layers of a chip seal. So a lot of our rural roadways are just that. They're about 1.5 inches, a couple inches of chip seal. And a chip seal is basically, it's about a 1/2 inch of rock and oil is all it is. And a lot of our rural roadways are like that. Our urban ones not so much, but we try to clean them up before we got here, so
Should have polished it.
I see they're
but they only can
Falling
clean them so
apart,
well.
We only want clean chips.
So we'll go through. We're going to actually a very crude graphic, but what the thought was with the TPD, if it does move forward, was it'd be these middle ones we'd actually be working on, where we'd grind out the old asphalt and put new asphalt in. Certainly the TPD do other things, but we thought that might be the biggest value. So when you if you take care of this now, you don't get a more costly reconstruction. So and we have a program to do the sealing or chip sealing of the roadways, which essentially sealing up these cracks to preserve them for a longer period of time.
And you would prioritize which roads need to be done first. I'm sure anybody watching this program is going to say, well, that's my street.
Right. Well, yeah, they can easily look at it. Most of us probably could determine, if it's good, fair, and poor. And we, our county staff, we rate half our arterial collectors every year, and then the local roads are kind of more of a 4-year cycle. So yeah, we regularly check them. We do visual checks on them on a regular basis to determine how good they're doing, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see kind of from the chart here on the screen as you move through the years, those numbers change. Some of the roads become more poor, and the green areas become there's just less good roadways, and just because our roads are aging and we're not able to do as much work as we had in the past, and so again the TPD was hopefully to knock some of those areas off and that were before the roads get into the really poor condition, I guess, and bring them back up. So we're going to go kind of through a crude example, in terms of really what some of these rehabilitation work is doing. So here's your standard rural county roadway. These are great graphics that we put together for you. And so the first one is a chip seal. And so the gray on there is representing a chip seal. And so right now we estimate that's about $50,000 a mile, centerline mile to chip seal a roadway. That's for both lanes. Now it may come in lower or higher. It's very volatile work. It depends really on the oil prices. So it's fluctuated quite a bit over the years, but it's significantly higher than it was 15 years ago. So if we do more of the asphalt overlay or the asphalt or the grind and overlay, this is kind of what you're looking at. So you see that thicker area at the bottom in black. That's where you're taking out some of the old asphalt where they're cracking iron, putting new asphalt in, and we estimate that's roughly about $250,000 a mile to again overlay a 24-foot wide road roughly. And then as we get into a reconstruction, you're kind of in a bigger area, so we'd like to take care of the roads before they get there, because if you take care of the roads sooner in the pavement life cycle, whether you're just doing a chip seal or you're doing some asphalt overlays, you can avoid a lot larger costs later on. And so when you usually get into reconstruction, those aren't something that we normally do a lot of because we're more reliant on state and federal grants to do that kind of work. And so once you get involved in, depending on the funding source, you're usually doing a little bit more than just a pavement work. And so you usually get into, rebuilding the shoulders and those sorts of things as well.
So new roads coming in, this is what you do, Scott?
What?
For new roads that you're paving, this is what you do, right?
Yeah,
up
for a
front
new
to-
roadway, yep, or larger upgrade, yep. This is what
Okay.
we'd be doing, yep. So it's not the norm, but it can happen if you let your roadway deteriorate too much. All right, so safety. In 2011 and 2015, we had 137 fatal and serious crashes. And so in addition to that, a lot of our guardrail doesn't meet the current standards. Doesn't mean it needs to get replaced right away, but depending on, I'll actually show you an example of some older guardrail that I think will be fairly clear what that means. And also, speeding is one of the common community concerns that we get. And so the TPD was intended to kind of take a look at some of those areas, or at least proposed to anyway. And so on the safety side, one of the proposals we had in a work program was to put wide edge lines on here. And I'll, where's that example go? So here's I guess I can hand it to you. It's not like the high friction surfacing you had last time. So the one on the your left is what was a 4-inch paint line, and the one on the right is an 8-inch line. And so what those lines can do, if you do them, is they're fairly inexpensive. The rough area actually is the glass beads, so that's what makes it reflective at night. So the paint itself doesn't. The glass beads actually is what your headlights reflect off of. But they can reduce crashes, run off the road crashes 10 to 40% or higher, or it really depends on the roadway and the traffic conditions. But they're fairly effective and fairly inexpensive to do, and you can. I think we estimated we could get about 80 centerline miles of roadway done for about $50,000 using county forces. So you can actually do a lot of good for a little bit amount of money. And then in terms of the roads we initially selected, or I shouldn't say selected, or proposing, there's about 22 million what did I put on there? 22 million driving trips annually. That's a lot. So that's like basically the average daily traffic volume multiplied by 365. So it's a fairly impactful at the end of the day in regards to how many people we could impact in the community.
Hey, Scott, when you talk about the guardrails not up to standards, I don't want to get too technical because I'm not sure you have the data about how many guardrails in miles that we have or up to standards, what that means. But we're not out of compliance.
That's
with
correct.
Any NHTSA.
No, we're not out of compliance because the standard is it's for what you're required to build at the time that you build the project. So that's a standard that applies.
Okay.
And so from that perspective, no, we're not out of standard. But from a safety perspective, bringing them up to more current guidelines or standards is a good idea because a lot of the guardrail we built years ago was built for cars that were on the road years ago, and the newer guardrail is a little bit higher than the older. The terminal ends are different, which make them safer for the truck, the more predominant trucks and SUVs that we have on our roads that we didn't have in the past. And so yeah, from a safety perspective, the upgrades make sense. But yeah, from a standard, we're not out of compliance from when they're originally built, and that's
Good.
what would be held to.
All right, thank
if there
you.
was an issue. So yeah, very good question.
Thank you.
So here's the guardrail. Your pictures on your screen are probably a little bit better than we can see. These are kind of small. I don't know. These don't really work on those screens, do they? Well, so the top picture, that's actually a guardrail. It's on Summit Lake Road, right off of. I think it's a Highway 8 or
Highway
Highway
8?
3. Highway 8. I always get 101 and 8 confused.
It's 8.
And the bottom part is not a Thurston County road and didn't happen in Thurston County, but that terminal end there is similar to what actually happened in that bottom picture. And so this is an area where we do have systems like this out there that would actually be good to replace, but guardrail is one of those things. It's, as you can see on the picture, $400,000 gets us about 200 feet of replacement in 2 years. So you can tell it's 2,000 feet, lineal feet in 2 years. So you can see it's not inexpensive, but again, there are systems out there that probably would be more important to replace than others. And then there's obviously a lot of guardrail that would be good to raise and do other things with as well. And so again, this is just one of the proposals that was part of the original discussions with this program. Traffic calming. So speeding is something. Since I've been mostly doing traffic engineering work here, speeding is one of the most common calls that we get, whether it's in a neighborhood or not. And so part of the program, we thought it would probably be appropriate to address some of the community concerns we hear the most. And so reinstituting our traffic calming program, if it was put in place, $100,000 over a couple of years, we estimate about 20 to 30 speed humps over that period of time could be installed. They would only get put in if the community, majority of the community approves it. So when we had the program before, it was community-based, meaning the community had to ask for it. We'd look at it, help them develop a plan, and then they essentially vote on it, whether they wanted those things installed, whether the county did it or they did it themselves. And so it intended to be again, a community-based and not something that the county would just go do. And they are pretty effective. The last set we did was around the Tangle Wild swimming pool. I think that was in 2008 before the program ended. And I think the speeds around there were around 30 miles an hour in a Husky way, and they dropped about 22. And so it was pretty effective, and that was one of their highest priority areas in that community. And I think we ended up accomplishing that goal there. So, and again, it's a program that would provide some benefit to some of the communities that we serve.
When it comes to funding, you said sometimes they'll do it, sometimes the county will do it, but is there a combination of funding, public, private type?
Yeah, that could happen. That hasn't happened. Some of the communities in the past that funded them, they didn't want to wait because we had more requests than we had the ability to deliver. And so if a community wanted to move ahead, then they could, if they had the means, they could move ahead and pay for themselves.
Okay.
I think we had 2 communities do that. So the technology, and this will be a little bit lighter on this one, but we can take advantage of technology to improve a lot of things, safety and mobility and capacity. So a couple of changes we have made, not with the Transportation Benefit District, but we have installed some new technology on a lot of our traffic signals that will allow our transit systems to have priority when appropriate to keep their route, maintain their route or their timing on their routes. Other things, one of them is, I don't know, you probably noticed them, but they're cameras on top of traffic signals.
Uh-huh.
They're there just to know if there's vehicles at that signal, and so they just if the pixels change within the camera lens, then that triggers a signal to say, okay, it's time to turn green or do something else. And so what we have a few signals set up to do is if there is excessive queues in some of the turn lanes, they can trigger and then actually set the cycle so it becomes a protected green. And although protected greens are nice, they also impede traffic. So some of our higher traffic volume roadways, if we do protected greens everywhere, they can increase congestion. So sometimes balancing a permissive and a protected helps that. And this program was intended to, if possible, add some more cameras to a few signals we don't have them at, and hopefully improve safety as well as capacity. But there's also safety improvements as well. One of them we'll note on an intersection here, or not intersection, roadway. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mullen Road undercrossing at Burlington Northern. So it gets hit every now and often by trucks or commercial trucks, usually box trucks and deliveries. So there are low over height warning systems you can get out there. They're not inexpensive, but they would probably help significantly in regards to giving trucks, or at least the drivers, the ability to stop before they hit that trestle, and because it usually does a little bit of damage when they do hit them. And although we have a lot of good signing out there right now, something like this would probably be helpful. And again, it's just an example of a project that could be the TBD could fund if it's moved forward. But yeah, I think it'd probably be. Probably a couple $100,000 or $150,000 probably to put that in, just because a lot of electrical work is probably the biggest expense on that.
Just to back up a moment while you go to the next slide, a lot of the public believe those monitors on top of the traffic signals are, of course, red light cameras, and they're not.
No, they're
It's just
they're
a
not.
traffic monitoring to trigger the signal.
Yeah, they're just for the traffic signal detection. They can count vehicles as well, but yeah, no. If there's red light cameras, there's required to be signing in advance of them, and they're a much different setup. They're usually on the side of the road in a big white pedestal type of
And
thing.
there are none in Thurston County.
There are none in Thurston County.
Thank you
Correct.
for going on the record. There's none in Thurston County.
In unincorporated Thurston County.
In unincorporated.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the cities.
I'm telling you there's not, but I won't
Okay.
go on the record for that, but there's not. I want the public to think there are.
All right, so that was it. I know we started a little late, and so trying to get done early if we can. So,
I
any
appreciate
questions?
that. Any questions?
I have a question about the ridges in roads prior, across the road, rumble strips maybe is what they're called, at corners and coming up on stop signs. Oftentimes you see them. And then the smaller ones on the sides of the roads, and I take it they're to alert you that you're getting off to the side. What kind of a cost is related to those? Do you have any rough idea on that?
I'll give you a general answer to the cost. But yeah, the ones on the side of the road they're called rumble strips. They're just a different form. And so, yeah, we have them on edge lines, fog lines. We also have them on the center line on some roads. And I think they're about $1,000 per mile, roughly speaking. So they're fairly inexpensive treatment when you end up doing it. They can reduce fatal and serious run off the road crashes up to 30% potentially. Again, those are rough numbers though. I mean, they vary by roadway and where they're deployed, but they actually are what Federal Highways considers a proven safety countermeasure in regards to reduction in run off the road crashes. The ones in advance of stop signs and curves, again, they're rumble strips like you mentioned. Those are fairly low cost really at the end of the day. They're, I'm going to give you kind of maybe a ballpark range because I don't remember exactly what they cost, but that's probably for us to, like say for the county to go out there, it's maybe $1,000 location, maybe. So.
Do you get complaints from citizens that live nearby about the noise, the vehicles going over those once in a while?
Yes, we have. We've made some adjustments when we've gotten some of those complaints because our intent isn't to disrupt people's lives and trying to make a safety improvement too. So yeah, when we have got them, we've tried to address them the best we can. In some cases, on the shoulder rumble strips, we've actually gone back and filled small portions of them in where there's a lot of vehicle strikes to try to reduce that noise impact to neighboring property owners.
Any comment or question?
Yep, for the general public that wanted to get in touch with the Public Works, is there a way to, they want to know more about the Thurston County TBD? Is there a way to contact you?
Yeah, certainly the public is welcome to contact us through the TBD's website, which is available through the County Commissioner's website or through Public Works website. There's a link to that on there. Contact information is available on there as well as all of the documents and I believe most of the presentations that have been made as well.
And just to finish up and to reiterate, the future of the TBD, Transportation Benefit District, we'll have conversations regarding its existence, the funding, and/or projects. But when we get to that point, the citizen input and neighboring jurisdictions and what they're doing, successes and trials and tribulations, as well as cost of projects and the best plan to move forward will come from that. So more yet to be.
Didn't we have a date scheduled for that?
Yeah, Commissioners, on May 4th, you have a day-long planning session, which this is going to be one of your items of discussion. Among many other funding strategies that you may consider another part of the business in the county.
All right, and that's on the Tilley Road.
Yeah, we're going to be meeting at Tilley Road at the Public Works site. And again, it's going to be just about from 8 in the morning, perhaps to 4 in the afternoon.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank the entire public for coming in. This place is action-packed and standing room only. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I want to thank Jim for coming, though. Yes, I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting of the TBD of April 18, 2017. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We're adjourned.